The day was overcast when Rafael arrived at the abandoned hospital. The imposing building, surrounded by tall trees and a rusty fence, resembled a sleeping giant. The old structure and dirty windows suggested that the place had been forgotten long ago. Rafael approached the main entrance, carrying his tools and a backpack, feeling a slight chill as he looked at the dark corridors waiting on the other side of the door. The cleaning crew was already there, scattered around the lobby. Mariana, a nurse who had worked at the hospital before its closure, was giving instructions to the others while organizing old documents. She greeted Rafael with a tired but welcoming smile. "Ready to start?" she asked. Rafael nodded, trying to ignore the discomfort the environment evoked. As he walked through the corridors, he noticed the absence of any sound except the echo of his own footsteps. The stories he had heard about the hospital, of it being haunted by the spirits of patients who died there, flashed briefly in his mind, but he pushed them away. Superstitions, he thought to himself. His job was simple: help with maintenance and final cleaning to prepare the place for permanent decommissioning. However, as they progressed with the preparations, Rafael couldn't shake the feeling that the hospital was watching him. It was as if the dark corridors and locked doors held secrets he wasn't ready to uncover. As the day wore on, Rafael and Mariana split up to cover different parts of the hospital. Rafael was in charge of checking the generators to ensure all areas could be illuminated, while Mariana organized old medical documents and equipment still scattered throughout the rooms. It was during one of these tasks that Rafael began to sense that something was off. While adjusting the power cables in one of the corridors, he heard a soft whisper coming from the end of the dark hallway. He paused for a moment, thinking it might be one of his colleagues, but when he called out, no one responded. Just the absolute silence stared back at him. He shrugged it off, trying not to think too much about it, and continued his work. Mariana, on the other hand, had found an archive room where she began reviewing some old documents. She was startled to discover patient files that had been torn and carelessly thrown about. Among the yellowed pages, there were mentions of experimental treatments, but with little explanation. Before she could read further, a slight movement in the corner of the room caught her attention. When she turned, she saw a shadow pass by the door. She ran to the corridor, but there was no one there. The whisper that Rafael had heard earlier now seemed to surround her, distant yet constant. Mariana felt a chill run down her spine. "It must be just my imagination," she murmured to herself, trying to calm down. But as she returned to the files, the feeling of being watched only intensified. The hospital seemed engulfed in an unsettling quiet, interrupted only by the occasional sound of footsteps and the creaking of old doors. Mariana decided to return to the archive room to try to organize the documents she had found. As she flipped through the yellowed papers, something caught her attention: a small diary hidden under a pile of files. The cover was worn and dirty, and the pages appeared hastily written, as if the author was trying to record something important before it was too late. Mariana opened the diary and began to read. The first pages were confusing, filled with notes about medication and treatment schedules, but one specific phrase made her heart race. "They tell us it's for our own good, but all I feel is pain." Those words, written in shaky letters, suggested that something terrible had happened there, something that was never mentioned in the official records. Meanwhile, in another part of the hospital, Rafael was checking a wing that had remained locked since the hospital closed. He noticed that the lock had been forced, as if someone had tried to get in recently. When he pushed the door open and stepped inside, a cold draft enveloped him, and he felt a shiver run through his body. The environment was dark, and the only light came from the flashlight he held. Rafael felt as if he were being watched, as if something invisible was moving in the shadows around him. He ignored the urge to run and began to explore the room. On the walls, there were scratch marks and dark stains he couldn't identify. He turned to leave, but before he could take a step, a soft whisper, almost next to his ear, made him freeze in place. "You shouldn't be here." After his unsettling experience in the corridor, Rafael decided to meet up with Mariana to share what had happened. He found her in the archive room, still focused on the diary she had discovered. When he entered, Mariana looked up, and Rafael noticed she seemed frightened, as if she had seen something that deeply disturbed her. "I found something you need to see," she said, extending the diary to him. Rafael began to flip through the pages, reading the chaotic notes that described painful experiments and unusual procedures. "Is this real?" he asked, still incredulous. Mariana nodded seriously. "There are many rumors about the hospital, but no one knew what really happened here. These experiments aren't in the official records." She then mentioned Dr. Beatriz Soares, a physician everyone knew, but whose practices remained a mystery. "I worked here before the hospital closed," Mariana began in a low voice. "I remember hearing stories about patients disappearing, and I always found it strange how reserved Dr. Beatriz was. No one knew exactly what she was doing, and the few times someone questioned her, she quickly silenced them." Rafael felt a knot form in his stomach. The pieces began to fall into place, and he realized there was a connection between the experiments described in the diary and the rumors about Dr. Beatriz. "If this is true, maybe that's why the hospital was shut down so abruptly," he said thoughtfully. Mariana looked at Rafael, her eyes filled with concern. "Something is wrong here, Rafael. The spirits we saw, the shadows, I think they're trying to tell us what happened. And if we don't find out, maybe they'll never be able to rest." After their unsettling conversation, Rafael and Mariana decided to continue investigating. They knew they needed to understand better what had happened in that hospital, and the clues they had found so far only heightened the sense of mystery. However, that night, as they revisited the areas of the hospital, the supernatural phenomena became more evident and intense. Rafael was in the main corridor, checking the electrical installation when he noticed something moving out of the corner of his eye. A shadowy, indistinct figure seemed to glide down the end of the hallway, then disappeared. He stopped and shone his flashlight in that direction, but there was nothing there. The feeling of being watched returned, stronger than before. His heart raced, but he tried to stay calm, convinced it could just be his mind playing tricks. On the other side of the hospital, Mariana was organizing medical files when she heard a strange sound. She turned and saw a figure standing at the entrance of the room, almost transparent, like a shadow set apart from the surrounding darkness. For a moment, she thought her eyes were deceiving her, but when she blinked, the figure remained motionless. Mariana felt an intense chill fill the room, and a muffled whisper filled the air. "Help us!" The figure dissipated before she could say anything, but Mariana knew she had just witnessed something very real and desperate. She rushed to find Rafael, who, upon seeing her, immediately realized she had seen something too. "They're here," she said, still breathless. "The patients, or what's left of them. I think they're trying to communicate." Rafael swallowed hard, feeling a mix of fear and determination. "Then we need to listen to what they have to say," he replied. But deep down, he knew this meant delving further into the hospital's dark past and facing the horrors that place was trying to hide. Determined to understand what had really happened, Rafael and Mariana decided to explore the secret wing he had discovered earlier, where he had felt the strange presence. They knew that place hid something crucial, and they needed to uncover what it was. With flashlights in hand, they crossed the corridor leading to the locked wing, feeling the temperature drop with each step they took. Upon entering the dark room, they were met with a disturbing sight. Walls covered in old medical files, photos of patients, and diagrams detailing unusual surgical procedures. Rafael found a file that appeared to be a secret record of the activities conducted in the wing. Dr. Beatriz Soares' name was listed on almost every document. "This wasn't in the official records," said Mariana, quickly flipping through the pages. She was conducting experiments on patients, trying to find a cure for degenerative diseases. But these weren't common research. They were risky and unauthorized experiments. The documents described invasive procedures, tests with experimental drugs, and even treatment methods considered unethical. The patients were treated as guinea pigs. As Rafael read through the reports, he came across a handwritten note. "The treatment failed. The patients are suffering, but we must continue. Pain is the price to pay for progress." The signature was Dr. Beatriz's. He felt a chill as he realized that these experiments had condemned the souls of the patients to ongoing suffering, even after their deaths. "Now it makes sense," said Mariana, her eyes wide. "Those spirits we saw, they are the patients who were tortured by these experiments. They are trapped here, reliving the same endless suffering." Rafael and Mariana exchanged a mutual look of understanding. The hospital was not only haunted by memories, it still carried the souls of those who had been wronged, and until their stories were told, they would never find peace. After uncovering the secret files and details of the horrific experiments, Rafael and Mariana were determined to find more answers. They needed to understand Dr. Beatriz's role and, most importantly, discover how to free the spirits still wandering the hospital. When they returned to the lobby, something had changed. The lights flickered, and the air felt charged, almost electric. Rafael felt a shiver and knew they were about to find something, or someone. As they walked down the main corridor, they saw a figure emerging from the shadows. At first, it seemed indistinct, a silhouette moving slowly and deliberately. As it approached, the lights flickered again, revealing the face of Dr. Beatriz. She was pale, her empty eyes conveying a mix of despair and regret. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice echoing like a distant whisper. Mariana stepped forward, trying to hide her nervousness. "We know what you did, and we want to help the patients who are trapped here because of you," she replied firmly. Dr. Beatriz's figure hesitated for a moment, as if weighing Mariana's words. "I tried to help," the doctor said, her voice trembling. "They were suffering, and I thought I could save them, but everything went wrong. Now, they're trapped in this place, and it's my fault." Rafael realized that the figure before them was not just a spirit haunting the hospital, but a soul seeking redemption for her mistakes. Dr. Beatriz revealed that she had tried to perform a liberation ritual before she disappeared, but failed because she lacked the strength to face the weight of her actions. "They still suffer, and they are bound to the torment I caused. If you want to free them, you will need to finish what I started," she said, her eyes pleading for help. Rafael and Mariana understood this was their chance to finally free the tormented souls. But for that, they needed to discover how to complete the ritual and confront the horrors still hidden in the hospital's dark corridors. Dr. Beatriz's figure began to slowly fade, but her last words echoed. "Find my notebook. It will show you the way." Rafael and Mariana knew that finding Dr. Beatriz's notebook would be crucial to liberating the spirits trapped in the hospital. Guided by her last words, they returned to the secret wing, where they had found the files before. The atmosphere felt heavier, and the temperature had dropped drastically. It was as if the hospital itself was trying to prevent them from continuing. As they searched the room, they heard footsteps echoing in the corridor, followed by whispers. They knew they were not alone. Suddenly, a door creaked open slowly, revealing a group of spectral figures approaching. The apparitions had expressions of pain and suffering, their eyes seeming to plead for help, but their movements were erratic and frightening. Rafael and Mariana felt their hearts race, but they knew they couldn't back down now. "We need to find the notebook," whispered Mariana, trying to stay calm as they moved through the room. Finally, among a pile of torn and dusty papers, Rafael found a black notebook with Beatriz's name written on the front. When he opened it, he saw it was a diary detailing her attempts to help the patients and her failures. The last pages described a complex ritual she believed could free the trapped souls, but she never had the chance to finish. Mariana quickly read the instructions, while the spectral figures drew closer, their voices filling the air with confused laments. "They are trapped in an endless cycle of pain," she said, her eyes scanning the lines of the notebook. "The ritual needs to be performed in the old auditorium, where the first treatment attempts began." The apparitions began to surround Rafael and Mariana, their distorted forms and anguished faces pressing in. "Please, help us," murmured one of the figures, their voice filled with despair. Rafael felt a lump in his throat. He realized the spirits were not trying to scare them, but were pleading for release. "We will help you," he replied, holding the notebook tightly. "We will finish what Dr. Beatriz could not." With the notebook in hand and newfound determination, Rafael and Mariana knew they would have to face the most challenging moment of their lives in the auditorium. It was there that everything had begun, and it would be there that everything would end. With Dr. Beatriz's notebook in hand, Rafael and Mariana headed to the old auditorium of the hospital. The journey there was long and oppressive, as if the shadows of the corridors were trying to hold them back. Upon arrival, they noticed that the auditorium seemed untouched by time, with dusty chairs and rusted medical equipment scattered across the stage. This was the heart of the hospital, where the first treatment attempts had been conducted and where the souls were most restless. Mariana opened the notebook and reread the ritual instructions, which involved creating a circle with personal items from the patients, representing their connections to the living world. "We need to gather everything we can find from them," she said, feeling the weight of what they were about to do. Each of these items represents a story, a life that was interrupted. They began to search for the patient's belongings, scattered throughout the auditorium and other areas of the hospital. They found old necklaces, faded photographs, a silver pen, and even a teddy bear, each object telling a silent story of those who had passed through. With everything gathered, they placed the items in the center of the stage, following the instructions from the notebook to form a circle. When they were ready, Mariana began to recite the words of the ritual. Her voice echoed through the empty auditorium, mingling with the whispers of the spirits filling the air. At first, nothing happened, but as she continued, the atmosphere began to shift. The lights flickered, and a gust of wind appeared from nowhere, rustling the papers and making the curtains flap violently. Rafael felt a presence around him, as if dozens of invisible eyes were watching intently. Suddenly, the spectral figures reappeared, but this time they were not chaotic and erratic. They positioned themselves around the circle, as if awaiting the final moment. "It's now," Rafael said, his voice trembling. "We need to finish." Mariana pronounced the final words of the ritual, and a wave of energy swept through the auditorium. The figures began to fade, their forms softening, and expressions of relief replaced the pain they once carried. Rafael and Mariana felt an unexpected peace fill the place, as if the weight of years of suffering was finally being lifted. One by one, the spirits disappeared, leaving behind only silence and a sense of calm they had never experienced in the hospital. The auditorium was enveloped in deep and serene silence, something Rafael and Mariana had not felt since arriving at the hospital. The lights stopped flickering, and the air felt lighter, almost tranquil. Everything indicated that the ritual had worked. The patients' personal items, which had once formed the circle on the stage, were now quiet and at peace, as if they had fulfilled their last mission. Rafael and Mariana exchanged glances, relieved and emotional. "I think we finally did it," Mariana said, her voice choked. It was hard to believe that after everything they had been through, the hospital seemed to have been freed from the horrors that had haunted it for so long. Rafael nodded, feeling a mix of sadness and satisfaction. They had helped those souls find peace, but the journey had changed them in ways they were still trying to comprehend. As they exited the auditorium, they walked through the corridors that had once seemed oppressive and hostile, but were now quiet and calm. It was as if the hospital itself had let out a sigh of relief. Before leaving, they decided to visit the lobby one last time. Upon arriving there, Rafael felt a gentle breeze pass by him, and for a moment, he thought he saw the silhouette of Dr. Beatriz at the end of the corridor. She appeared clearer, as if she were finally at peace. Mariana saw her too and smiled, knowing that, despite everything, Dr. Beatriz had found redemption, just like the patients. "It's time to go," Rafael said, and Mariana agreed. With the hospital's decommissioning completed, they finally left the building, crossing the main entrance as the sun began to rise on the horizon. The soft light illuminated the windows, bathing the hospital in a golden hue that symbolized a new beginning. As they looked back, they saw the hospital for the last time, no longer as a place of suffering, but as a place that had finally found peace. Rafael and Mariana knew they had done something important, not just for the souls they had freed, but also for themselves. They left the site, carrying with them the certainty that sometimes facing the horrors of the past is the only way to find liberation.